are off. We're joined in studio talking Cavaliers up until around 5 o'clock with Brendan Bowers. StepInRules.com is his website. Slam Magazine, Bleacher Report, all these NBA websites and magazines. You'll be able to check out his work, and covers the Cavaliers here in Cleveland, and wanted to have him in. Now that football's ending, we're going to start the transition into basketball. I know a lot of people like to put that on the back burner, and with the Cavaliers, how they off to the 7-23 start, it's starting to catch a little steam. So wanted to get him in here, and hopefully this will continue on to be a once a month, once every other month guest here on All Bets Are Off. So we went to break. I wanted to talk about Byron Scott. I know the record is definitely not where he wants it. The playoffs not making it the last couple of years, being a lottery team, not what he's envisioned. I know other media members, people think that he's getting a free pass, but in my mind, I don't think you're going to find a better head coach to work with the talent that the Cavaliers have than Byron Scott. What's your opinion on him?
Yeah, I think that, from a frustration standpoint, I can see where fans look at it and say, this guy's lost a lot of games in the time he's been the head coach, but I think that we got to take into consideration what is, I don't know if I want to say marching orders, but what the organizational plan is. And with that plan being building towards next season, I think that he's done a good job developing Kyrie Irving. He has a very, I believe, productive and supportive relationship with Kyrie. I think that he's doing the same thing with Tristan Thompson, and you touched earlier on, his relationship with Deion Waiters. So I think that when we're looking at Byron Scott, we got to drive it down to those individual levels and say how well is he developing these core players. To that point, I think that he's doing a good job.
Okay, well, that's the part, and I think now that more people are going to start focusing on the Cavaliers, that's going to be the part, because, you see a guy like Avery Johnson today, after a fantastic start in Brooklyn, they went on to a very slow streak, 3 of 13, I think, and sit at 14 of 14, and he was, fired earlier today. So we'll see what Byron Scott has in store. But I totally agree with you. They had their philosophy of what they want to do to build this team, get it back to the playoff contention and Eastern Conference NBA Finals contention as they've had the last couple of. Well, I don't want to say last couple, but when LeBron was here. So we'll see if they get back into that order or not. But Tristan Thompson, it's a name that comes up a lot on this show and through social media, wherever. I understand that people want a lot more out of him, and as we touched on earlier, 4 or 5 straight games with double-double, I think you're starting to see maybe some of that potential. If you're Byron Scott, the Cavaliers, and maybe even a fan, let's say this, take yourself out of the meeting and you're a fan, when can we start expecting a 4th overall pick out of Tristan Thompson?
Well, I think that, first of all, that draft class wasn't necessarily the best draft class, Kyrie Irving aside. You could look at it and say, you'd rather have Tristan Thompson than Derek Williams based on production. And if we're looking at, those overall numbers. So I think that we actually got to forget the fact that Tristan Thompson was a 4th overall pick. If he was a 17th overall pick, like Tyler Zeller is this year, I'm not sure that anyone would really have an issue with the type of production that he's had. Is that giving Tristan a pass and me saying that? I mean, maybe it is, but at the same time, I'm not sure. You can go look back at that draft and pick 2 or maybe 3 guys that you would have taken in hindsight over him, but at the time, there was absolutely nobody thinking that Kenneth Faried was the 4th overall pick or Klay Thompson was the 4th overall pick. So with that said, I feel like you just got to look at what Tristan Thompson can become himself, and I think that that's a double-double guy. He's not going to be an all-star, but if he's a starter or your 3rd big, averaging 10, 11 points, 10, 11 rebounds a game, I mean, he'll take that on a team where Kyrie Irving scoring 25 points. Hopefully, Deion Waiters develops into an 18-point-a-game scorer, and maybe you get a high-profile scorer this year.
Do you buy into the J.J. Hickson comparison?
No, because I don't think, first of all, if you would have kept Hickson, you've been paying him a lot more money than you're paying Tristan Thompson right now. And, if Byron Scott's going to be your coach, and I like J.J. Hickson, I follow his career, and I'm glad that he's doing well this season. But if Byron Scott's going to be the coach, he didn't want J.J. Hickson. So the Cavaliers made that decision, and I feel like that Tristan Thompson can be the right answer there.
From StepInRules.com, the website, you check that out. Brendan Bowers joining us. We're going to take a couple of your calls now. 866-786 888-8551. You can email Bruce at sportstimeohio.com or tweet at us, and we'll get those questions over to Brendan as well. Let's start off in Indiana, a basketball state. Chris, you're up first. How are you today?
I'm well. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Two comments. The first one on Byron Scott. I totally agree when it comes to the player relationship with Kyrie and Tristan and Dion. That's a positive. The one thing that drives me crazy with Byron Scott is that consistent play. It seems like he doesn't make changes quick enough. Like the game last week versus Toronto. Toronto ran the same play consistently, and Cavs got burned, and there was no adjustment. Last year, it seemed like it took forever for the Cavs to improve on the pitch and roll, defending it. Some of the help side defense when I watch the Cavs, it's like, why can't they improve quicker on the little things? And then second of all, the Tristan Thompson thing, why do you feel that he seems to play better with Zeller, and he kind of goes into a shell when he plays with Andy? Do you think there's any relationship now that Andy's hurt? Thompson's game is improving.
Yeah, Chris, thank you very much for the call. And I think we touched on that a little bit earlier, but go ahead and touch on the play of Tristan Thompson with Zeller opposed to Andy.
Yeah, and I think that there's something there with Tyler Zeller's skill level and the fact that Tristan Thompson and Anderson Varejao are similar players. A lot of people in the offseason, kind of did not think that Varejao and Tristan would necessarily fit together on the floor at the same time because of that reason. So, maybe that has something to do with, with the caller I mentioned.
Do you see a point where Scott may insert Zeller into the starting lineup, maybe put him at the 5 position with Andy at the 4, where you bring Thompson off the bench, where you try to mix them up a little bit, get them away from each other since there's similar, gameplay?
Well, that could happen at times. I think that, neither of those 3 players, Zeller, Varejao, or Thompson, are going to be that much of an offensive impact that it necessarily matters that much. Like you're hampering a guy that's you're a guy that could be a 25-point scorer. You're holding him down to 10. I don't know that it necessarily matters, but it's something to keep in mind with rotations.
Let's go to Mount Vernon. Al, you're up here on All Bets Are Off. How are you today?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for getting my call. You guys have been the second-best team about 5 times since I can recall in the NBA. If Michael Jordan could hit a curveball, you guys might have 2 wins right there.
Sure.
But the way the collective bargaining agreement is structured, do you think you can even compete with the teams that are allowed to have 4 or 5 superstars? I mean, and how soon do you think that's going to change? And also, one quick question. Aren't you guys the team that traded the draft rights to have Earl Matthew Johnson for Alan Bristow? Thanks.
No problem, Al. Thank you very much for the call.
Ted Stepien would trade the rights to James Worthy, I can tell you that much. But, as far as the collective bargaining agreement, that's supposed to technically help, some of that stuff. We will have to see how it plays out. In theory, it's supposed to give a team like the Cavaliers more of an opportunity.
And that's one thing we talk about here, and I mean, some of these lesser tier teams. Bruce talks about it all the time. You pretty much know the 5 to 6 teams that are going to be going for the NBA championship. You may have that, like I San Antonio last season, where they started to make a little bit of noise, and then you have the rest of the what I call schedule fillers. Where you have to make up games and you have to fill out the rest of your playoff bracket. So, and as you mentioned, the lockout last year. We'll see if it helps going forward with being able to hold a guy like Kyrie or Waiters when these guys come about. Rich where are you, Rich? Canfield. You're up, Rich. How are you today?
Yes, Happy New Year to both of you.
Thank
I have
you.
a question. I'm struck by the fact that a lot of shooting guards and point guards that the Cavs drafted in the past left the team. So I'm wondering if this is the time to extend to Kyle Irving a multi-year contract. I would extend that contract now rather than wait till a contract's up. I look forward to your answer. Thank you for the call.
Thank you very much, Rich. And, they extended them last season?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as, per the collective bargaining agreement, as soon as they're allowed to give Kyrie Irving every extension in the world, they will be sure to give it to him. I don't know a lot of things, but I know that much.
Okay, and when we come back, we'll take a couple more of your calls. 866-786-8551.